Something terrible took place in a small house in Azul, Argentina, on the night of August 16th, 2020. At 27, Eliana Mendilahazu was a mother of 4. That night, she cooked for a house full of people she hadn't even invited. She was tired and still healing from giving birth, but she had to do it. Things got more tense as the night went on. After a while, everything changed. After hours, there was an emergency call. Eliana was not awake. Maria Ramiro Ponce, her partner, told a story about what happened, but the truth was much worse than he wanted anyone to know. There is a small town in Argentina called Azul, where Eliana Mendilahazu was born in August 1993. She had a hard start to her life because she was born 6 months early, weighing only 2 pounds. In spite of the chances, she fought to stay alive. A poor woman named Maria de Los Angeles was her mother. She lived in a rough area on the edges of Buenos Aires. About Eliana's early years, not much is known. But by the time she was in her mid-20s, she had 3 kids from relationships that didn't last. She met Marcos Ramiro Ponce, a guy in his mid-30s, when she was about 26 or 27 years old. Things got serious between them very quickly, and they moved in together. The house became a home for her kids, and sometimes for Marcos's kids from other relationships. People who knew Eliana well could tell that Marcos had a bad attitude, but she didn't show any worry. By the end of 2019, she found out she was pregnant again. The baby is due in the middle of 2020, but doctors told her to be very careful because she was pregnant with a high-risk baby and the COVID-19 outbreak was going around the world. Because of the strict lockdowns in Argentina, Eliana was left alone. Because they lived more than 30 miles away, her family couldn't come see her. Her mother and other family members could only check on her and see how the pregnancy was going through video talks. Maria de Los Angeles desperately wanted to be with her daughter, but she was turned down for special permission to travel. The birth of Eliana happened quickly, on June 11th, 2020. Even though the process went well, in the days that followed, she looked weak and worn out. During video calls, Maria de Los Angeles noticed how pale and weak she looked. But she said it was just because she was having a hard time taking care of a baby. She didn't say what was bothering her because she didn't want to add to her daughter's stress. When Eliana's baby turned 2 months old, it was also her 27th birthday, August 11th, but her family couldn't come because they were still sick. Her family and friends were careful to keep her and the baby safe, but Marco didn't seem to care. During a video call with Eliana on August 16th, Maria de Los Angeles' worst worries came to the surface. With dark bags under her eyes, her daughter looked even more worn out. Eliana told her she was just tired when she was asked if she was okay. Then she said Marco had asked about 20 people to the house for a birthday party, even though the pandemic restrictions said they couldn't. He also wouldn't let her go to the hospital to have her C-section stitches checked, even though it had been more than 2 months since the surgery. Marco drank a lot that night, as he often did. He was angry because of the alcohol, and something made him even more angry. Eliana was taken into their bedroom, where he beat her badly until she passed out. Instead of going to the hospital right away, Marco called one of Eliana's friends and said she had passed out and needed help. When she still didn't wake up, an ambulance was finally called, but Marco didn't go with her. Instead, he told the rescuers that she had been drunk and fallen off the bed. At the hospital, Eliana was only briefly checked out by doctors. Even though she had obvious bruises and was very weak, she was sent home with the guy who had hurt her after only a short stay in the hospital. For the next 14 hours, Eliana's family had no idea what was happening. Then Marco called for help again. This time, her state was very bad. As soon as she got to the hospital, her life was in danger. He kept lying, though, as shown by an audio message he sent to her family and friends. He played down the situation by saying that problems were possible, but she would probably get better. But medical tests showed what was really going on. It wasn't a simple fall for Eliana. She had a serious brain injury called an epidural hematoma, which means there was bleeding inside her brain between the skull and the brain's outer layer. The increasing pressure put her life in danger, and surgery right away was the only way to save her. On the same day, doctors got ready to operate and take out the clot. Maria de Los Angeles showed up at the hospital out of the blue, which caught Marco off guard. He hadn't told her, but because he and Eliana weren't officially married, the hospital called Maria de Los Angeles as the next of kin and asked for her permission to do the emergency surgery. The brain doctor said there wasn't much time left. Eliana would not have lived if they didn't act right away. At the same time, Marco kept up a front by telling those around him to have faith and saying that Eliana would wake up soon. The doctors were not fooled by his attitude. He was told straight by the neurosurgeon that he knew Eliana hadn't fallen from a bed. The wounds she got were consistent with being severely beaten, but it was still not clear what tool or method was used to hurt her. During a second, more thorough surgery on the brain, the doctor found proof of his worst fears. He had never seen anything like the pain Eliana had been through in all his years of work. This, along with a key witness statement, made Marco the most likely person to have done the attack. The lawyer in charge of the investigation quickly called the case an attempt to kill a woman. She asked the local court for an arrest warrant, saying Marco was a real threat and should be held right away. But on August 24, 2020, the judge refused to sign the order. As more information about the case came out, people became more angry. It turned out that the judge didn't make the arrest because there wasn't enough proof that the damage was caused by a kick. Up until that point, the identity of a key witness had been kept secret to keep them safe. The person who saw it all knew that Marco had hit Eliana and kicked her in the head while she was on the ground. Even though the accusations were very serious, Marco stayed free, and Eliana's family felt helpless. Because the justice system wasn't doing anything, the prosecutor went to a higher court to ask for a ruling that took into account how serious gender-based violence is. During this time, Mauro Zarate, Eliana's uncle, talked to the reporters and said he was very sad. He said that the doctors said Eliana would probably stay in an unconscious state even if she lived. He used simple, emotional language to describe how terrible things were. A piece of bone had gone through her brain and broken her skull. The surgeon did another big operation on her, but some parts of her brain were damaged beyond repair. Eliana were not able to move. Her family could only pray for something good to happen. Mauro got the attention of reporters by telling them that people should expect justice. He said that the person who hurt his sister had not only ruined her life, but also taken away the mother of her 4 young children. He promised that their family would not rest until someone was sent to jail. On the same day, people in the community held a protest to demand justice for Eliana and make sure her case wasn't forgotten. At the same time, Marco kept pretending to be innocent. He wrote a lot of posts on social media that made him look like a sad husband, telling Eliana to stay strong and showing his unwavering belief that she would get better. He called her a fighter, a great mother, and his partner for life. Instead of making people feel sorry for him, His posts made them angry. His lies were caught by many, and anger quickly spread online. Not long after that, Marco took a big legal hit. On August 29, 2020, a judge from a different court looked at the proof and decided that he should have been arrested. Marco was arrested and officially charged with femicide, which means killing someone while being intimately involved with a victim of gender-based violence. Also, 2 doctors were sued for negligence because they sent Eliana home without properly assessing her state, even though she was unconscious and badly hurt when she was first admitted. In a public speech on September 24th, Marco insisted that he was innocent. It was his story that Eliana hurt herself when she fell and hit her head on the floor. But by that time, the truth could not be hidden. What really happened was horrifyingly clear from what Eliana's children and Marco's children said. Family members were told by one of the kids that he had seen Marco grab Eliana by the hair, throw her to the ground, and then kick her very hard in the head. Eliana, on the other hand, stayed in a sleep and fought for her life. This terrible fight went on for 70 days. Then, on October 27, 2020, her body gave up. She died. Her family had a hard time getting justice, and it was hard on them both physically and mentally. Over the course of more than 3 years, her mother led the way, never giving up. To make sure Eliana's story wouldn't be forgotten, they planned peaceful protests, media campaigns, and online movements with the help of female groups and social activists. A tribute was held in her honor on the first anniversary of her death. A red bench was put in a public area to honor women who have been killed because they were women. In front of a large group of people, her mother thanked those who helped their family. She said that the bench wasn't just for Eliana, but for all women who had been abused by a partner. It was a wake-up call, a warning that the community needs to see gender-based violence for what it is and fight it before more lives are lost. As Marco's trial date got closer, more information about how he abused others came to light. It became clear that Eliana had been through a lot more than was first thought. The man who claimed to be sad for her was actually the person who hurt her the most. Eliana was known for being kind and ready to help people who were victims of domestic violence. In her own case, though, she didn't say anything because she was afraid. Her mother saw a bruise on Eliana's face during a video call during the pandemic. Eliana told her that she had fallen off her bike when she was asked about it. She said she hurt herself when she slipped while cleaning the floor when a friend asked about the same injury. Eliana told 5 different people 5 different stories, but they didn't talk to each other. Because of this, no one knew how bad what she was going through was, and nothing was done to help her. After the tragedy, Maria Angelis found out that Marco had also told Eliana she couldn't keep studying, which Eliana had been trying to hide. She never complained or said she was hurting. She kept quiet about it all because she was afraid of what other people would think and what would happen. The pain she was in was always hidden by her smile. While things looked good at first, the case against Marco seemed to be going forward. But then things started to go wrong. The trial was supposed to start on February 13th, but Eliana's family found out 2 days before that it had been pushed back. Later, they found out that the delay was a strategy used by Marco's defense team to wear out witnesses and make them less likely to appear. A psychologist working with the Mendilahazu family said that Marco's lawyers had purposely filed an appeal with the Court of Cassation, which threw off years of hard work by the prosecutor and months of planning by witnesses. A lot of people had changed their plans, missed work, drove long distances, and cancelled other plans to go to the trial. After all the pain they had gone through, they were told they would have to wait months for another court date. Marco's lawyers came up with a good plan. The trial was reset for 6 months later, but on August 6th, just as things were about to start, there was yet another delay. This time, Marco's defense team didn't like the idea of 8 jurors and turned down all of the other options. Maria Angelis said it was like playing chess all day, which was very hard on Eliana's family's emotions. To make things even worse, the jury selection happened in the courtroom, so Maria Angelis had to meet Marco face to face, even though she had asked to avoid him. She said that was one of the worst times of her life. Marco didn't show any shame or regret. He looked cocky and didn't seem to care at all about the pain he had caused, not just to Eliana, but to her whole family. The judge told them that the trial would finally start in early September. But Maria Angelis couldn't get rid of the feeling that more than just Eliana's life was being taken from her family. These people were being robbed of their lives. The never-ending delays made their pain last longer and hurt more every time they thought justice was close. Maria Angelis wasn't just emotionally hurt, she was also physically hurt. During one episode, she lost the ability to speak and had some trouble moving one side of her body. Still, she kept her faith through everything. She vowed to never give up the fight for what she thought was right. A jury finally heard the case against Marco Ramiro Ponce on September 5, 2023, after months of delays and 2 big postponements. He was accused of murdering Eliana because he beat her so badly that she fell into a coma and didn't wake up for more than 70 days. Maria Angelis was the first person called as a witness. Before she went into the courtroom, she said that she and her lawyers would be asking for the harshest punishment possible: life in jail. Marco had taken Eliana away from them, leaving her kids without a mother and her family in pieces. She was ready for him to pay now. It was planned that the trial would last 4 long court meetings before a decision was made. Marco's son from a previous marriage and Eliana's oldest daughter, Valentina, were 2 of the most important witnesses. On that terrible night in August 2020, both kids were in the house. To make sure they were safe, they gave their testimony through a forensic interview method made just for kids. Both proved what people had thought for a long time. Marco had hurt Eliana. He threw her to the ground and kicked her in the head while she couldn't fight back. The proof was strengthened when Marco's ex-partner spoke in court and said that he had also abused her in the past. Even though there were a lot of evidence against Marco, his defense tried to shift the blame. They said that Eliana's death was caused by bad medical care. One of the lawyers for the defense even said Marco had never hit her that night. But when the prosecution showed proof that couldn't be argued with, the same lawyer changed his strategy. Instead of rejecting the attack, she said Marco had been violent, but she played down how bad it was, implying that he never meant to kill Eliana. The prosecutors strongly disagreed with this point of view. The state's attorney asked for the harshest punishment possible, stressing that all the proof showed that Eliana was a victim of ongoing sexual violence against women. The violent attack on August 16, 2020, was part of a bigger pattern of abuse in which Marco used force to claim power. Then, on September 10, 2023, the time came. As the trial went on, Marco had refused to witness, but he was given one last chance to speak as the judge got ready to give the verdict. As usual, the accused person could speak to the court before the ruling was made public. Marco finally spoke up after 3 years of silence. By acting cold and calculating, Marco tried to make himself look like a victim. He said he wanted justice for himself, Eliana, and her children. Afterward, he said it was simpler to blame himself, since he was innocent, than to hold those responsible, who he said had not given Eliana the medical care she needed. Even though he tried to avoid taking blame, the verdict was quick. Marco Ramiro Ponce, 37, was found guilty, but not of femicide as the state had wanted. Instead, he was found guilty of attempted murder, with double aggravation. Because the crime was committed against a former partner and took place in a setting of gender-based violence, the judges agreed that Marco had indeed been violent. They did, however, agree with the defense that Eliana's death was actually due to poor medical care and not the attack itself. The jury only talked about the case for 40 minutes before coming to a decision as a whole. All 12 jurors agreed on how the crime should be classified by the law. They decided that even though Marco had been violent, Eliana's death was caused by medical mistakes. The possible punishments for this decision were 10 to 15 years in jail. Now, they had to wait for the judge to decide what sentence Marco would get. After the decision was announced, Eliana's mother said she was upset. She had hoped for a ruling that would mean life in prison. Nevertheless, she admitted that the prosecutors had done a great job working with her lawyers to get her at least a conviction for attempted murder. In a sad moment of reflection, she said that she was somewhat happy with the jury's decision because it meant she could still sue the hospital staff who had cared for Eliana. She said that was the next thing to do. The court gave Marco a 14-year prison term at the sentencing hearing, but as of February 24, 2025, when the investigation was over, there had been no news stories confirming that the hospital staff would be sued. The result of the trial caused a lot of heated debate in Argentina about the role of citizen juries in femicide cases, in addition to the case itself. Some legal experts and human rights groups didn't see how the decision made sense. In their defense, they said that the jury had basically agreed that Marco had meant to kill Eliana, but since she escaped the first attack, his crime was only considered an attempt, even though her injuries ended up killing her. Critics pointed out that the jury's thinking didn't make sense. In their decision, Marco's hard kick to Eliana's head, which caused the brain hemorrhage that killed her, was not seen as the main cause of her death. They said that this went against both past cases and what had actually happened. At first, the doctors did not treat Eliana properly, but they did not cause the injuries that killed her. They just failed to stop what was going to happen. Marco was the only person who really did the wrong thing. There is, however, one terrible fact that cannot be changed. 4 children were left without their mother, and neither she nor they got the justice they truly earned in the end. That's it for today's case. If you want more true crime content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new story. Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your perspective. Until next time, stay safe and stay aware of the world around you.